Discover the incredible truth behind the house with golden windows, an inspiring journey of three troubled siblings. Jack stepped out of the car, the familiar scent of damp earth and aged wood hitting him like a wave. He could barely recognize the house. Once alive with laughter, its golden windows had dulled to a weary gray, reflecting the bleakness surrounding it. The siblings hadn't gathered here in years, each one trapped by their own misfortunes. He felt the weight of being the eldest crash over him, memories tugging at his heart. But as he reached the door, he reminded himself of his dream to escape this place, to set his family free, and to finally find his own path. Sarah parked next to him, glancing nervously at the house. Her heart ached as she thought about her son back in the city, shuffling over papers in her small apartment. Guilt wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. What was she doing here? Could she be the mother he needed without falling back into her own wounds? As her eyes welled with tears, she whispered a prayer for strength, determined to face whatever awaited her inside. Lisa arrived just moments later, paint-splattered jeans clinging to her frame as she clutched a worn sketchbook to her chest. The urge to create danced in her veins, but the shadows of doubt consumed her mind. What if no one thought her art mattered? She wanted to honor her mother's passion for community and creativity, but could she do it here, in this town that had almost forgotten who they were? Together, the trio stood before the crumbling porch, a wave of nostalgia and pain washing over them. Inside, dust kissed every surface, each room echoing with whispers of what once was. As they started cleaning, it was hard to ignore the unresolved tensions boiling just beneath the surface. Old arguments seemed to hover in the corners like ghosts, the remnants of misunderstandings and hurts left unspoken. Then they stumbled upon a box filled with letters from their late mother, each one bursting with love and sacrifice. As they read aloud, tears streamed down their faces. "She gave up so much for us," Sarah said, heartbreak tattooed on her voice. Jack felt a flicker of inspiration ignite within him. This was their chance not just to honor her, but to breathe life back into the town. "Let us do something to bring everyone together," he proposed. Before they could truly grasp the enormity of that idea, an overwhelming urge to unite their community seized them. They began crafting plans for a town festival, a flicker of hope rekindling the bonds they thought were lost. But as preparations unfolded, cracks began to surface. Neighborhood rivalries and narrow-mindedness fought against their ambitions, the darker side of their home reminding them of an uphill battle ahead. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the festival drew near, old rivalries ignited previous frictions. Neighbors who once helped one another now glared with bitterness, reminding them all of how far apart they'd grown. The weight of their mother's dream sat heavy on their shoulders, and on the brink of despair, the siblings faced the realization that their combined strength might not be enough. When Jack, Sarah, and Lisa finally carved out time for a heart-to-heart, the air grew thick with emotions. "We can't let this tear us apart," Jack urged, each word laden with urgency, the echoes of history clashing with their hopes. They weren't just siblings anymore, they were a family, struggling against the currents of their past. In that charged moment of reckoning, they recognized that perhaps home wasn't a place, it was those golden windows reflecting not just wealth but the love, resilience, and unity they fought for. But as they prepared to send invitations to the festival, an unexpected confrontation loomed on the horizon, threatening to unravel the fragile threads that wove them back together. Could they stand united when everything they thought they knew was challenged? And would they ultimately choose to honor their mother's legacy or continue to chase individual dreams? The shadows of their past whispered promises of struggle as they stood on the precipice of change, waiting to see if they could weather this storm together. A heavy silence lingered as the siblings parted ways from their emotional heart-to-heart. Each was absorbed in their thoughts, the burdens of the past clinging tightly. Jack felt a stone settle deep in his gut. He paced on the porch, unsure how to bridge the growing divide they faced. What if their efforts weren't enough? The festival was more than just a gathering, it was their lifeline to the community, a chance to reclaim their mother's spirit. Inside, Sarah fumbled with old decorations, her fingers tracing faded memories. Each item reminded her of simpler times. She caught her reflection in the window, the waning light casting a somber hue over her face. "I can't let my son see me falling apart over this," she muttered under her breath. Determination surged through her as she reminded herself of her roles. She had to be the mother her son needed, the sister her siblings desired. Meanwhile, Lisa sat on the floor, flipping through her sketchbook. The pages brimmed with ideas for a mural honoring their mother, but doubt crept in like a chilling draft. What if no one cared? She could feel the weight of the townsfolk's disapproval, could almost hear their whispers of judgment. The walls of the house felt like they were closing in on her. Decisions raced through her mind as she sketched and erased, hinting at her yearning to create yet caught in a spiral of insecurities. As they regrouped later that evening, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Jack stood at the center, trying to rally spirits. "We need to tackle this front and center," he exclaimed. "We can't let these old feuds define us. Let us talk to our neighbors, find common ground." Sarah hesitated, the fear of rejection paralyzing her. "But what if they just shut us out? What if they don't want their past dragged up?" "Then we keep trying," Jack replied, grit in his voice. "We owe it to Mom and to ourselves. We've got to push through." Lisa nodded, though her heart thudded unevenly against her chest. "I'll paint the mural. It can be a symbol, a message that we're ready to come together. But we need everyone's support, their hands and hearts in this." The fire within them sparked slightly, but still, the shadows loomed. In the days that followed, they ventured into their old neighborhood, their intentions high but the reception cold. Faces that used to welcome them now showed only skepticism. Some had lost sight of the nearly forgotten community spirit, firm in their stubbornness, unwilling to entertain change. "We don't need a festival, we had enough of that nonsense," a familiar voice snapped a neighbor from their school days. Anxiety rippled among the siblings as they attempted to explain the vision they had, but the more they spoke, the more alienated they felt. Jack's heart sunk. "We're not here to dredge up history. We want to create a future," he pleaded. The weight of their mother's love, woven into their desire for community renewal, felt like a storm brewing inside him. They looked at one another, realizing that their journey to unite was not just about the festival, but about mending broken connections and healing old wounds. As they returned home, a sense of desperation settled in. The festival needed them, but their strength relied on a community that seemed hell-bent on keeping its distance. With every passing day, the warmth of hope flickered dangerously close to going out. A sudden thought struck Jack. What if we started something small? A dinner to gather neighbors? We open our home and hearts, let them see we're serious. Sarah exchanged a frightened look with Lisa. "Can we do that?" Lisa whispered, a touch of hope dancing in her voice. "Together, we can," Jack affirmed, feeling a small flicker of that hopeful spark reignite. But as they made plans for the dinner, will they be able to break down the walls and forge new connections? Or will fear and resentment prove too powerful to overcome? The tension thickened once again, leaving them teetering between hope and doubt. The evening air hung heavy with possibility as Jack, Sarah, and Lisa gathered at the kitchen table, a cluster of papers and half-eaten snacks sprawled before them. Sunlight had faded, giving way to an anxious dusk. The siblings leaned in, glancing at one another, ready to breathe life into Jack's idea. "What should we serve?" Sarah asked, stirring the remnants of her coffee as though trying to blend courage with the murky brew. "It has to feel like home." "Comfort food," Lisa suggested, flipping through a recipe booklet, her eyes lighting up at memories tied to those dishes. Mac and cheese? Mom's famous chili? Chili it is, Jack declared, the thought of it igniting the warmth of nostalgia in his chest. Anyone can make chili, but it's what we do with it that makes it special. As they discussed the details, warmth started to flicker in their hearts. They would set the table with their best dishes, reminisce over laughter shared and stories woven into the fabric of their childhood. Sarah's laughter broke the tension, a sound they had almost forgotten. A few cacti will do for decorations. Mom loved those. But beneath the laughter, Jack felt it. The tremor of fear still lingered, a relentless companion. What if no one came? What if they were just prolonging their heartache? With every thought, doubt clawed at him. The way their old neighbors had looked at them, the disdain, the disbelief was enough to chill even the warmest intentions. Still, a determined glimmer shone in Jack's eyes. We'll make flyers. Just a simple note to the neighbors. We can even drop them off ourselves. Lisa nodded, spirit buoyed. It'll be an invitation to share, to talk. Let them see us as we really are. As they crafted the flyers that night, their spirits began to rise, bolstered by the hope of bridging the rifts. They wrote with enthusiasm, words flowing freely as they crafted their message, a pledge of friendship and community. When the flyers were ready, they set out the next day. The cool breeze welcomed them as they walked through familiar streets, filled with both memories and uncertainties. Are you ready? Jack asked with a playful nudge to lighten the mood. No, admitted Lisa, but a smile tugged at her lips. But we'll do it anyway. They knocked on the doors, hearts pounding as they introduced themselves to faces that were once known, now strangers. At first, the responses were chilly. Some neighbors barely acknowledged them, their disdain obvious. A few even turned their backs. But then, their voices broke through, hesitantly reminding each other of the life that had once thrived in their little town. They spoke of shared memories, of good old days, laughter, and fun. There were more smiles, a spark of connection ignited amidst the shadows. Hey, it's chilly night. Bring the kids, one neighbor had finally said. Just like that, they felt the tiniest shift. After the last flyer had been delivered, the siblings gathered outside, breathless with exhilaration, as if they'd just completed a marathon. What if, Jack started, but paused, a sudden wave of doubt overtaking his bravado. What if no one shows? Sarah whispered, biting her lip. The worry in her eyes mirrored the unrest in his mind. Lisa took a deep breath, steadied her voice. Then we'll share our chili with one another. And maybe that's enough to start. Jack knew she was right. The journey wasn't about the festival, it was about attempting to revive something deeper. Could they create a space for their shared hearts even if the world seemed indifferent? As dusk deepened into night, shadows danced around them, teasing with the possibility of tomorrow. The emotional stakes had never felt higher. Would their hearts be met with resilience or rejection? The sense of imminent change crackled in the air. They stood on the precipice of letting their mother's legacy shine through or slipping back into the void of silence. They shared a determined glance, then turned to face their home, ready to shake the foundations of their little world. But what if their small steps started an avalanche of transformation, or would it all come crashing down with one wrong moment? The weight of anticipation pressed on them as they stepped back into the house, the future uncertain, but more alive than ever. The sun rose timidly the next morning, casting a soft golden hue over the neighborhood. Jack stumbled into the kitchen, still half lost in dreams of what the night might bring. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped him, grounding him in the moment. He grabbed a cup, watching as Sarah and Lisa busied themselves with preparations, their laughter echoing off the walls like music he'd almost forgotten. Are you nervous? Jack asked, taking a seat at the table. A little, Sarah admitted, her fingers fiddling with the edge of a napkin. What if we poured all this effort in and, it doesn't matter. Lisa straightened, her blue eyes fierce. That can't be our mindset. We can't change what happened in the past, but we can start today. We can create a new memory tonight, for us, for them. Jack nodded slowly, feeling a ripple of hope stirring in his chest. You're right. Tonight it's about connection. No matter how it goes, this is our step forward. He took a deep breath, determined to quiet the gnawing fear. As the day wore on, the siblings slipped into a rhythm. Sarah chopped onions and peppers for the chili while Lisa set the table with their mother's favorite dishes, a cheerful mishmash of colors and textures. Jack busied himself hanging the string lights outside, transforming their porch into a welcoming beacon. Each bulb they hung felt like a small promise, a testament to their shared effort. With the sun beginning to set, nerves bubbled to the surface. The sky turned a brilliant orange, but all Jack could focus on was the approaching twilight, the mingled fear of rejection and anticipation wrestling in his gut. Do you think anyone will actually show up? He asked, eyes searching his sisters. Even if it's just one person, it's a start, Lisa replied, her voice steady and unwavering. That's all we need. At 6, they began to hear little sounds, laughter, chatter, some shuffling feet approaching. Jack's heart raced. He wiped his sweaty palms on his jeans, trying to regain composure. The first knock on the door sent a shock through him. Here goes nothing, he whispered, sharing a glance of reassurance with Sarah and Lisa before opening the door. Mrs. Henderson stood there, slightly hesitant, holding the hands of her 2 grandchildren who peered up with wide eyes. We heard about the chilly night. Is it too late to join? He stepped aside, a grin breaking across his face. Not at all. Come in. You're just in time. As the evening unfolded, neighbors trickled in, faces once avoided now lit with curiosity and smiles. The warmth of laughter filled the air as chili was served, bowls passed around, stories exchanged. In those moments, the harsh past dissolved ever so slightly, replaced by a mosaic of connection. Jack felt a shift within him, a blossoming joy. Sarah chatted animatedly with the Henderson children, her worry erased, free once more in her element. Lisa moved between groups, making sure everyone felt included, her laughter threading people closer together. Then Jack caught a moment among the crowd that made his heart swell. One older neighbor, Mr. Thompson, who had barely looked their way all these years, leaned in, sharing a story about their mother. As he spoke, the room quieted, the siblings hanging on every word. It was her warmth that made this neighborhood bloom. We lost a light when she left, he said, his voice breaking ever so slightly. The vulnerability hung heavy in the air, a shared understanding knitting hearts together in unspoken agreement. Jack felt tears prickling his eyes as he realized this was what they had feared but also hoped for: connection, support, and the collective lifting of burdens. At that moment, everything could change, and Jack knew they couldn't go back. Everything would be different from here on out. But as the door creaked open and another neighbor peeked in, someone not yet welcome, Jack felt a shift again. Would this new face bring acceptance or another shadow of doubt? The air was charged as smiles flickered and conversations halted, all eyes turned to the door, waiting breathlessly. Was this a moment of expansion, or would the fragile connection they'd formed take a step backward? The tension between hope and fear hung palpably, leaving Jack grasping for the answer. Jack's heart thudded in his chest as he took in the figure in the doorway. It was Mrs. Simmons, an elderly woman from down the street, a woman whose shadow seemed to linger like an echo of the past. He remembered her frown, the way she had often passed their house without a word. What was she doing here now? With shaky breath, he forced a smile, trying to mask the tempest of emotions swirling inside him. Hello, Mrs. Simmons. We're just starting to serve chili. Would you like to join us? Her gaze shifted, catching the warmth of the kitchen, the laughter of children, the flickering lights outside. For a brief moment, uncertainty flashed in her eyes. They held history, pain, grief, silence. But then, as if remembering a simpler time, she took a step inside. "I suppose I could be tempted," she said, a hint of a smile creeping onto her lips. The moment she crossed the threshold, Jack felt the air shift. It wasn't just her presence, it was the possibilities swirling around her. Could this be the breaking point for the neighborhood? Could they truly replace the heaviness of the past? As she settled at the table, the others returned to their conversations, but Jack couldn't tear his gaze away. He watched Mrs. Simmons pinch her lips together, contemplating the offerings. With every word spoken around her, the gentleness of laughter wrapped them all, lights not only decorating the house but illuminating hearts as well. "Jack, could you come help me in the kitchen?" Sarah's voice broke his reverie. Reluctantly, he tore his eyes away and followed her. "What's up?" he asked, noticing the worry etched on her face. "What if she doesn't stay? What if she leaves?" Sarah whispered, glancing back at the table where Mrs. Simmons sat quietly. "Let's just let this happen," Jack said, trying to inject calm. "Maybe she's ready for a change, too. Just like us." Outside, the stars began to twinkle as twilight deepened into night. Jack filled bowls with chili, talking softly with Sarah, trying to reassure them both. The warmth of the room felt like a cocoon, wrapping around every fear and whispering that maybe all of this was enough. Meanwhile, Lisa was in the living room, sharing stories with Mr. Thompson and Mrs. Henderson. Laughter rose and fell like waves crashing against the shore, life bubbling in the spaces where once was an oppressive silence. Suddenly, there was a commotion at the door. Another neighbor, Mr. Jones, strolled in, a jovial man with a big personality, arms wide as he greeted everyone. "What's this? A party? Why wasn't I told?" Jack's heart raced. More people meant more potential for connection, but it also stirred up insecurity. He couldn't shake the feeling that old wounds were waiting to be reopened. As Mr. Jones made his way through the crowd, playful comments filled the air, allowing Jack to breathe a bit easier. The crowd swelled with voices, laughter intertwining with memories of their lost mother, fleeting glimpses of a world they thought had vanished. Amid the chaos, he caught sight of Mrs. Simmons again. She was talking to Sarah, her eyes softening as she listened intently. Jack felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they could bridge the distance together. Then, there it was again, a sharp rapping on the door, pulling their attention. This time, it was more than just a visitor. It was a familiar figure, someone he never expected to see, creating ripples across their gathering. Jack's breath caught. Who could it be? Would this new arrival change the evening's trajectory, bringing wounds to the surface or forging bonds stronger than before? The uncertainty crackled in the air, and all eyes turned once more, waiting for the next chapter of their story to unfold. The door swung open with a creak, and there stood Timmy, the small boy from next door, clutching a bright blue balloon. Jack's heart skipped. Timmy's presence felt like a beam of light cutting through a smoke-filled room. The crowd shifted as curious eyes turned toward the young boy, innocent and unaware of the weighty moment unfolding. "Hey, Timmy!" Jack exclaimed, joy bubbling up despite the tension. "Didn't he expect to see you here? Come on in." Timmy took a step inside, beaming up at Jack as if he were a superhero. "I saw all the lights. And Mom said I could come for a bit." His smile brightened the room, effortlessly softening the edges of unease. "Of course you can. Grab a seat," Jack urged, drawing him into the warmth of the gathering. As Timmy ventured toward Lisa, he held up his balloon triumphantly, drawing giggles from the adults. There was something marvelous about how easily children could spread joy, even in the most fragile of moments. But then suddenly Jack remembered the last time he had seen Timmy. It was only weeks ago, at the funeral. Grief had shadowed the boy's face then, sitting quietly on the front row, clenching his mother's hand like it was a drifting lifeline. Jack looked away, swallowing the lump in his throat. Could this gathering really help them all heal? Mrs. Simmons caught his eye from across the room. She had her hands clasped tightly in her lap, but her features softened as she watched Timmy interact with the others. For the first time, she seemed to sense the warmth that encircled them all, nostalgia glittering in her eyes like the stars peeking through the window. "Jack, I brought you some cookies," Timmy chimed, reaching into his messenger bag and pulling out a Tupperware container, the lid clumsily held on one corner. "I made them with Mom. Those look amazing." Jack responded, genuinely impressed as he took the container from the little boy's hands. It was a small gesture, but in that moment, it felt monumental. Timmy's act of sharing was breaking down walls. Inside, he felt bittersweet tension, the comfort of knowing that connections were being made but the weight of loss still hanging in the air. He glanced around, laughter bubbled up again as Mr. Thompson attempted to juggle the cookies with Timmy's help, creating a delightful chaos. Jack couldn't shake the fear lurking at the back of his mind. Would all this joy mean something if Mrs. Simmons, a woman who had held so tightly to her sorrow, couldn't let go? Would the invitation of joy really overcome years of silence and absence? As he returned to the table, pondering these thoughts, he noticed Mrs. Simmons was now speaking with Timmy, her voice softening into a story of her own childhood. Jack saw her eyes light up, morphing doubt into warmth that might just thaw the past. But then, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen. All heads turned sharply as Sarah cried out, her voice tinged with panic. "Jack! Help!" A sudden stillness enveloped the room. The laughter faded as all eyes shifted, apprehension creeping in like a chill. Jack felt his heart race, the joyous atmosphere threatened with uncertainty. He exchanged glances with Sarah, fear and determination intertwining in their expressions. What had happened in the kitchen? Would it derail the fragile connections being formed? As he rushed toward the sound, doubts and fears mingled, forcing Jack to confront not just the present chaos, but the shadows lurking beneath the surface of their gathering. What lay ahead would test them all in unexpected ways. Jack darted through the small crowd, pushing past the clinking of glasses and murmurs of confusion. The kitchen door swung open forcefully, and the scene inside was an explosion of chaos. Sarah stood frozen, her eyes wide and panicked as she pointed toward the floor, where a cascade of shattered glass sparkled ominously in the flickering light. "Jack, the pot!" It tipped over. Jack blinked, trying to process the sight. The pot, once filled with a hearty soup intended for everyone, now lay on its side, its contents spilling like a lost chance. The floor was a slick mess of broth and broken glass. Yet it was the gasp from Timmy that caught his attention. The little boy pressed against the doorframe, his blue balloon hovering precariously at his side. "Timmy! Stay back!" Jack shouted, instinct kicking in. He dashed to protect the child from the shards that glistened like broken promises. Jack's heart raced, not just from the fear of Timmy getting hurt, but from the looming distress the incident could bring to the gathering. Would this moment shatter their fragile facade of healing? The room echoed with worried voices, people inching toward the kitchen doorway. Mrs. Simmons followed closely, her expression twisting back into the shadows of the past, a glimpse of darkness that almost swallowed the small light Timmy had brought. Jack knelt to the floor, trying to scoop the worst of the mess aside. "Sarah! Can you grab some towels?" he barked, urgency catching in his throat. They needed to contain this, not just the mess, but the fear that seemed to grip everyone. As Sarah dashed off, the sound of the party muted into an uncertain silence. Jack felt Timmy's small hand slip into his, a small, feeble attempt at comfort. Such bravery from a child. Jack looked down, finding solace in the innocent grip. "It's okay, Timmy. You're safe," he murmured, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. But Timmy frowned, his gaze darting from Jack to Sarah in frantic worry. "Is everything okay?" Jack swallowed hard, wanting to offer reassurance but weighed down by the truth of the moment, the fear of losing this connection. "We'll fix it, just like before. One step at a time." Mrs. Simmons stepped into the kitchen, her demeanor shifting. We've all faced worse, haven't we? She offered, her voice steadying the atmosphere a bit. Let us clean this up together. The words landed softly like a spark, igniting a sense of camaraderie. People began to step in, each contributing to the mess. They worked in unison, exchanging playful quips while finding towels and gathering their thoughts. Amid the chaos, Jack snatched a moment to catch his breath. Laughter bubbled from the gathering now, weaving through the air, entwining with the warmth that lingered. He glanced at Timmy, whose eyes sparkled as he watched Mr. Thompson attempt to stand on one leg while balancing a towel on his head. Suddenly, the gravity of Jack's earlier fears lifted, replaced by a flicker of hope. It was true, they were all healing, even in the chaos of spilled soup and broken glass. But then Timmy's balloon slipped from his grip, drifting up towards the ceiling. Jack's heart sank as he watched it float higher. It was a metaphor, an unguarded symbol of joy soaring above their sorrow, yet teetering on the brink of losing it all. Would the laughter last, or would it pop as suddenly as the balloon? As Jack reached up, trying to grasp for the balloon, he felt an urgency settling deep in his chest. In that moment, he realized that everyone was looking for something to hold on to, a way to anchor themselves amid the turbulence. Would he catch the balloon, or would it slip away, like so many things they had lost? The answer seemed to wait just out of reach, daring him to reach higher. With resolve burning in his veins, Jack took a deep breath. The fragile connections they were forming had the power to lift them all. But could they keep those connections alive amidst the tides of life's unpredictability? That's what he needed to find out. Jack's fingers grazed the surface of the balloon, but it slipped through his grasp, a burst of color rising beyond his reach. A flurry of gasps erupted around him, but this time, they were not from fear. There was laughter, lighter and warmer than before. Timmy's eyes widened in a mix of awe and disappointment, the joy momentarily dimming. It's just floating away, Jack, he whispered, his voice small, fragile like the balloon itself. In that instant, something clicked for Jack. The balloon was just a representation of the moments that often hang just out of reach. That feeling of wanting to grasp something beautiful yet evanescent. He wasn't alone in that thought. Everyone in the room had felt the ache of longing, that desire to hold on to something precious. Maybe it's a good thing, Timmy, Jack said, his voice steadier now. It's still up there, shining bright. Just means we can look up and enjoy it. Suddenly, there was a lightness in the air, the balloon transforming from a loss into something magical. Timmy tilted his head back, following the trajectory of the balloon, and soon others began to do the same. Look, it's like it's dancing with the lights. Sarah exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Jack felt the joy shift tangibly around them, the laughter weaving a fabric of connection that silenced the earlier chaos. Mrs. Simmons clapped her hands together, breaking the moment into a whisper of purpose. All right, team. Let us finish this cleanup, and we can all gather around to find out what else is cooking in that kitchen. Who says we can't have a second round? Inspired, Jack took charge. They formed a small chain, passing towels and gathering the glass shards, a brigade of hope in an unexpected storm. Giddy laughter flitted just above the clinking noise of towels hitting the floor, reminding Jack of the importance of leaning on one another. The connections weren't just for moments like these, they were the foundation upon which healing could be built. As the last piece of glass was swept away, Jack caught a glimpse of Timmy, who was now standing tall, eyes unbelievably clear. Can we have balloons every time we do something like this? The boy asked, his face alight. Absolutely, Sarah replied with a grin. Balloons for every celebration. Even on the bad days, Jack added, smiling at Timmy. The spirit of the room filled with an eagerness, igniting hearts and laughter. Jack felt the warmth creeping back in, the aroma of unbroken camaraderie replacing the stench of spilled soup. For the first time that evening, he didn't fear what could happen next. Yet the moment hung in the air, like the balloon drifting above. As voices melded together in a chorus of possibilities and plans for the future, Jack's phone buzzed quietly in his pocket. He fished it out, a spark of confusion darkening his mood as his heart quickened at the unknown number flashing on the screen. "Who's that?" Sarah caught his glance, her curious eyes landing on his phone. "Not sure," he replied, anxiety threading through his voice. "But should I answer?" Timmy's eyes widened, breaking the lightheartedness with a tinge of tension. "Maybe it's important," Timmy said softly, his small hand reaching for Jack's again, giving it an encouraging squeeze. Torn between the warmth of their healing moment and the looming uncertainty that this call represented, Jack hesitated just a few seconds longer. What could it mean? With a deep breath, he pressed the green button, feeling the weight of the moment shift again. Whatever lay on the other end could change everything. He pressed the button. The phone connected with a soft click, a brief silence hanging thick in the air. Jack held his breath, anxiety coursing through him like electricity. "Hello?" a voice said, firm yet laced with an unmistakable tenderness. It was a voice he hadn't heard in years. "Mom?" Jack's heart raced. His heart felt like it was trying to climb out of his chest. Every memory of laughter and missed connections flooded back. He hadn't anticipated this call, a torrent of emotions crashing over him. "Jack." "It's really you," she said, the warmth of her tone wrapping around him like a blanket. He could picture her smiling, but it also brought a sharp pinch of pain. Where had she been all this time? "Yeah, it's me." Words stumbled from his mouth. What did he even say? "I wasn't expecting your call." There was a pause that filled not just the space between them but the entire room, almost as if everyone else present could feel the gravity of those moments lost. Jack's eyes flickered over to Timmy, whose gaze was rooted in curiosity and concern. "I know. I wanted to reach out sooner. Life got complicated." Her voice cracked, and Jack felt a stir of empathy, despite the distance that had grown between them. "Complicated?" Jack echoed, bitterness soaring dangerously close. "That's one way to put it." Then, as if sensing the tide turning, she rushed to fill the silence. "I've been trying to find the right moment to explain everything. I need to talk to you. There's so much you don't know." Jack shifted his weight, trying to absorb her words. "What do you mean? What could possibly explain why you left?" Emotions swelled within him, anger and longing entwined like vines. He wanted to scream, to shout how unfair life had been, but in that moment, a small voice within reminded him of Timmy, still connected to his hand. "Jack, please. I don't want to overwhelm you with this right now. Can we meet?" she asked softly, her voice breaking at the edges. "I promise I'll explain. I want to be a part of your life again." His gut tightened. A potential second chance, but with it came uncertainty. "I don't know. Why should I trust you?" He could feel the tension growing, every second stretching further apart. "Because, Jack, I'm here now. And I want to do right by you. It's time we talked face to face," she admitted, vulnerability seeping through her words. A whirlpool of emotions crashed through him: confusion, anger, but above all, hope. A chance for clarity, for closure, or perhaps, the start of something new. Jack turned slightly to Timmy, who was still present, discerning the change in Jack's expression. "What do you think?" Jack asked quietly, seeking that childlike wisdom he so valued. Timmy looked thoughtfully at Jack before offering a simple, encouraging shrug. "Maybe you should. It might be okay." The phone buzzed again, drawing Jack's attention back. His mother's voice was low and hopeful. "Will you let me explain? Just one meeting, please?" Jack felt the weight of the moment pressing down, the laughter from before fading to allow this new conversation to take center stage. He knew this decision could lead to a path of healing or further heartache. He took a steadying breath, feeling the warmth of Timmy's hand still clasped in his. The balloon floated above, a symbol of what could be. With that thought, Jack nodded to himself, making a choice. Okay. I'll meet you. But before he could finish, the shrill laughter of the crowd outside broke through, tethering him back to the present. He felt both hope and dread entangled in his chest. Suddenly, the unexpected emerged once again. His phone buzzed with a message, an unknown number flashing on the screen. What now? Jack muttered, his heart racing. Timmy's grip tightened, pulling Jack back to the reality of the moment. Whatever happened next, he knew he had to face it head-on. What was waiting in that message, and who else might reach him in his renewed journey? Jack held his breath as he glanced at the new message. His heart raced with urgency. But before he could even swipe to read it, laughter erupted from the living room, making the air lighter again. It was as if the joyful noise of the gathering pushed back against the weight of uncertainty pressing on him. Hey, let us leave it for a bit, huh? Sarah's voice rang through the doorway, an inviting smile on her lips. The warmth and liveliness emanating from the gathering pulled at Jack, reminding him they had started something important tonight. He tucked away his phone and turned back toward the hustle of the party. Lively chatter filled the air as neighbors shared stories of their childhoods, hands gesturing animatedly, creating an atmosphere of warmth that felt electric. Timmy's balloon floated gently overhead, a bright symbol of the hope they were all working to reclaim. Look! Timmy squealed, pointing at another child who jumped to touch the balloon. They can reach it. The innocence in his voice made Jack's heart ache with a soft nostalgia, a reminder that laughter and joy could pierce through their past grief. "See Mon, Timmy," Jack said, his mood brightening at the little boy's enthusiasm. "Let us go see if we can help them reach it." The pair ran toward the living room, where neighbors were already forming a tiny pyramid, arms extended upward in a silly effort to reclaim the drifting balloon. Laughter enveloped them like a hug, a tapestry of moments woven together by shared joy. Jack felt a surge of warmth as he joined in the playful chaos. Every giggle whispered connection, reminding him they were creating a new story, one of resilience. At that moment, Jack realized that healing could happen through the simplest of actions: a balloon, laughter, and the warmth of community. As the music blared and chatter filled the space, he felt drawn back to his phone resting quietly in his pocket. The looming question of his mother hovered over him. But in that instant, surrounded by faces illuminated by golden lights, the urge to dwell on the past slipped away. Tonight was about the present, about rediscovering connections they thought lost forever. Voices floated through the air, nearby neighbors exchanging glances and smiles, as Mrs. Simmons now shared a story about the town's annual block parties from years ago. Jack felt his heart swell as whispers of his mother drifted through the room, connecting all ages and generations, each a thread in the fabric of their lives woven together by laughter and memory. "Hey! Let us get everybody involved," Sarah called out from across the room, the determined light in her eyes shining brightly. "We can all write what the neighborhood means to us. Let us create a mural, everyone can add to it, like a collective memory." Wild applause erupted. The room buzzed with animated excitement, neighbors leaned in closer, showing shared enthusiasm. Jack watched as Lisa's eyes lit up with inspiration. "Yeah. I can sketch something right now. We could take turns adding our thoughts and stories right on the walls of this house. We'll paint it bright," Lisa exclaimed, each word igniting more energy around her. Timmy jumped up and down, the balloon forgotten for a moment as he clapped his hands. "I want to help. Let me help." Jack's heart felt as if it had expanded and filled with light. He glanced back at the door, where shadows of the past began to fade into memory. The walls no longer held just echoes of pain but transformed into canvases for new stories. "Let us do it," he shouted, joining Sarah and Lisa. "This is our moment. A new beginning." As he spoke those words, it reflected not just on the walls but within each heart present the fragility of once silenced voices reclaiming their lives, together forging an unbreakable bond. As the laughter harmonized in a joyful crescendo, Jack took one last longing look at his phone. Tomorrow would come with its own unresolved questions. But tonight, while surrounded by newfound connections forged in shared experience, it felt like the world was humming with possibility. Let us make this place glow, just like those golden windows used to, Jack said, feeling the resonance of his words deep in his chest. Emotion swelled, darting through the air as smiles erupted all around him. The joy pulsated, vibrant and alive, each heartbeat echoing a promise they would rise together, uniting their community in a glorious mosaic of memories. And as they began to brainstorm, Jack felt the exceptional joy that only comes from sharing love, vulnerability, and resilience in the face of uncertainty. In that moment, he realized that it wasn't just about reaching for what was lost, it was about creating something new, together. So he smiled wider, enveloped in the warmth of everybody's camaraderie, ready to embrace whatever would come next. Now, it's your turn to feel the magic of stories like these. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive tales that can inspire and uplift. Leave a like right away to feed the algorithm, because it honestly makes a difference. Comment below about how this ending touched your heart or what you're aspiring to transform in your own life. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a sprinkle of hope in their lives. Let us spread this positivity far and wide.